Well, thanks for showing up, everybody. Really appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get started here. Now, if you have any questions, use the little chat bubble icon to ask any of those questions, then we'll go ahead and get them answered. If you are watching a recording of this, you can also send any questions that you have to Matt, M-A-T-T, at sfrep.com or training at sfrep.com. They'll both come to me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. I even have gotten on the phone with people while they're at Best Buy or Staples or wherever and given them guidance on what they should buy. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have, and whether that be email or through chat. So we'll go ahead and get started here. What I'm going to go over here is we're going to talk about what type of computer you should buy if you're in the market for a new computer. We can also discuss anything technology related. I have been with SFREP I'm in my 16th year now. I can't believe it's been that long. And I have been using computers. I'm 45. Sometimes I forget how old I am. I'm 45. I've been using computers since 1985 or 6. I think it's 86. But I had been toying around with them prior to that. So my first computer was an IBM XT with 256 kilobytes of RAM and 2 floppy drives. So I've been doing this for a very long time. So what I want to do is help you guys navigate through the mess that is buying a new computer. Now, the good news is that any new computer currently on the shelf at your local Best Buy or Staples or Office Depot or wherever will run Appraiser Pro with absolutely no problems. Now, obviously, the more horsepower and more RAM that you buy, the better your experience is going to be. But Appraiser Pro will run on pretty much any computer out there. Now, there are lower end computers out there, things that compete, say, in the Chromebook space, but run Windows. These $299, $300 HP little laptops that are really meant for, you know, kids to do, you know, their learning during the pandemic. Those types of computers, they will run Appraiser Pro, but you're not going to have a really great experience either running Appraiser Pro or pretty much anything else. They just don't have a lot of horsepower. So what I generally recommend, and I'm going to pull up WordPad here, and we're going to share my screen over here. There we go. So I often get asked, what do I recommend as far as computer specs? And let me go ahead and we'll do, I guess, maybe 28 font. No, it's probably not going to be enough, is it? Let's do, we're doing this on the fly here. Let's do 36 point font. Okay, so we'll do recommended specs, and then we're going to take a look at some computers here in just a minute, okay? So we're going to do recommended specs, and then let's turn off that. All right, so processor. I'm going to recommend a Core i5. Now, Core i5 is the Intel version of the processor. So a Core i5, basically Intel's processors as far as their power and everything. And I'm oversimplifying this, but believe me, you're going to want me to oversimplify this because I don't like to get too far into the weeds, okay? So from a marketing standpoint, from Intel, they have their Core series. Now, they have some processors that are below the Core series. These are things like Pentiums, Celerons, Atoms. Stay away from those. You're going to want at least the Core series. Now, the way that they work is they start with Core i3, then they go to Core i5, then they go to Core i7, and then that used to be the most powerful. And now they have now they have Core i10s. Core i10, Core i7, Core i10 is definitely overkill for anything that you guys are going to be doing. Core i10 is mainly made for gamers, like high performance gaming or high performance video editing and things like that. Even a Core i7 is probably going to be a little much for what you want, but if you want to future-proof your computer and you don't want to buy a computer for another 10 years, maybe go for that Core i7. You're going to pay a little bit more for it, but it's going to give you some more horsepower. Mid-range is where I kind of point people towards, because you're going to get the best power to cost ratio. Okay, so what I recommend is a Core i5. Now, a Core i5 desktop is going to be more powerful than a Core i5 laptop. Once again, I don't want to get into the weeds here, but your desktop computer is always going to be more powerful than a laptop computer. And a laptop Core i5 is not necessarily the same as a desktop Core i5. The desktop's always going to be more powerful because it doesn't have to worry about battery life and things like that. It's just going to suck as much power as it possibly can. So Core i5, whether it be on a laptop or desktop, for you guys using business software, you're not going to notice a difference between the laptop and the desktop power. Core i5 is where it's at. Now, AMD is the other competitor to Intel. In some cases, in a lot of cases, AMD processors are a little bit faster. They're a little bit more powerful. But for the most part, once again, don't want to get into the weeds, an AMD processor and an Intel processor are roughly the same. And it used to be very confusing knowing which one was which, but thankfully, AMD has started to name their processors kind of in line with how Intel was doing it. So the equivalent of a Core i5 in the AMD world is called I think I'm spelling this right. It's called a Ryzen. I think it's Ian, but you'll know it when you see it. So we'll say Ryzen 5. So you can see a Core i5, Ryzen 5 are the same thing. Core i3 and a Ryzen 3 are the same thing. Core i7 and a Ryzen 7 are roughly the same thing. Now I'm saying roughly. Usually the Ryzens are a little bit more powerful. And the thing that the Ryzens have, the AMD processors, they're doing system on a chip now. So they have, when you buy a computer, it'll have the graphics package already built into it. And especially in the laptop world, the Ryzen processors have usually a, their name is completely escaping me right now for some stupid reason, but the graphics processing that they have on them is better. Now, does that really make a difference for you guys? Not really. So don't worry about that. Okay, so Core i5 or a Ryzen 5 processor. RAM. What do we want for RAM? Well, really anything above 8 gigabytes of RAM is going to be great for running Appraiser Pro, but RAM is where you don't want to ever skimp. So as much RAM as you can get, as much RAM as you can afford. My current computer here that I do all this stuff on is a desktop, and it has 16 gigabytes of RAM. I love that. That's a good place to be. However, as far as recommending and trying to balance that price out, I'm gonna say for RAM, I would recommend probably at least 8, but I would recommend 12 gigabytes. So we'll say 8 to 12. And you'll notice that RAM, because we're dealing with base 8, once again, don't want to get into the weeds, RAM is generally going to go in increments of like 4 to 8 to 12 to 16 to 32 to 64. Kind of like how your iPhones did or your Android phones did back in the day. Your storage capacity was always in 8 or 16 or 32 or 64. So RAM 8 to 12 gigabytes. Let's see, what else do we have here? Those are your two big ones. Now, as far as storage, there are two main types of storage. You're going to have what's called SSD or solid state drive. So solid state storage, or HDD or hard disk drive. Hard disk is what you probably have in your current older computer, and it's what you've been using for years. We went floppies, and then we went to hard disk drives. And the reason that they call it solid state, which is what I recommend, and I'll get into that in a second, but your traditional hard drive is literally a spinning metal platter. It's actually a couple of platters stacked together that spin at an incredibly high rate, usually about over 7,000 revolutions per minute. So this thing is cooking, and it spins really fast. And there are little heads that go in between the platters, and they basically go in between them and then read the data. Now, because it's all mechanical, and they're in this little package that's a vacuum, so there's no air resistance. But they're very delicate and very intricate, and they tend to fail. You know, I mean, they're a moving thing with lots of moving, delicate, intricate little parts, fiddly bits. So when that spins really, really fast, things can break. So what solid state did is it comes along and it uses flash storage, very similar to what you have in your phone, very similar to what you have in a flash drive, like this, well, you know, these little USB flash drives. So very similar, but way faster, way faster. And so the reason they call it solid state is there's no moving parts, so it's just chips. And that gives you better reliability. It gives you a heck of a lot better speed. I mean, light years beyond speed. And, you know, it's very quiet. There are no moving parts, so it doesn't make any sound. And it doesn't get as hot, and it doesn't require as much power. So all in all, a much better solution. So what I recommend is definitely getting a solid state drive instead of a hard disk drive. Now you'll be tempted on the hard disk drive because generally you'll see a 1 or 2 terabyte storage limit on a hard disk drive. That's overkill, especially for what you guys are going to be doing. Unless you're, you know, storing movies and tons of videos and stuff, there's really no reason to have 1 terabyte of storage. What I recommend is either 256 or 512 gigabytes of SSD storage, solid state drive. And once again, you'll see it when you're looking at the specs online or at Best Buy, you'll see it abbreviated as SSD or HDD. SSD is solid state drive, HDD is hard disk drive. So those are your 3 main things. The other thing I would say for your display, and this is more important for laptops than it is for desktops, because generally every desktop monitor that you buy now is going to be a 1080p monitor. But in the laptop world, you definitely have still floating around out there on the lower end laptops, you have 720p displays. And the displays are now pretty much, you can say they'll give you it in resolution of pixels. That second number is what you're going to be looking for. You'll see it as either 720 or 766 or 756, but you're looking in that 700 range. Don't get that. You're going to want to be in the 1080 range, that second number. That's 1080p. And if you don't know, or if you're confused by that, just ask the person at the store that you're buying from. They tell them you want a 1080p display. So we're going to do 1080p. Now, you might be tempted because the 720p seems to like everything looks a little bit bigger. And of course, we're all getting older and our eyes aren't what they used to be. So you may notice that the display everything looks a little bit bigger. Here's the problem with that though. The things on the screen, the text looks bigger, but you have way less real estate to be able to display things. So there is a setting you can do in Windows, and our tech support can help you with it on your new computer, where you can zoom in the display a little bit, but you'll still have, so you'll have the advantage of having the larger text, but you will be able to have that extra real estate to have more things up on the screen. And really Appraiser Pro works best on a 1080p display, because we have, if you look at Appraiser Pro, I'll pull it up here real quick. And this somewhat applies to Appraiser Classic as well. And I'll just open up a blank report here. So you'll notice I have a 1080p display. Now you may not on your computer you're watching this on, but you should at least be able to see here over on the left, and then over on the right, we have these panels. And these are really meant for a 1080p display. Now our tech support, if you have a 720p display, they can log into your computer and help you move these around to compensate for a 720p screen. But out of the box, it really is meant for a 1080p display. All right, so just to recap here, we're looking for a Core i5 or Ryzen 5 processor. This is Intel, and this is AMD. We want 8 to 12 gigabytes of RAM, but the more you can get, the better. Storage, we want 256 or 512 gigabytes, but once again, the more storage you can get, the better. And as a matter of fact, you can buy a laptop or a desktop if it comes with a 512 gigabyte SSD and you want more. A 1 terabyte SSD now is only running 80 to 100 bucks, and then maybe it'll cost you 50 bucks to get it installed and everything switched over. Like if you go to Best Buy, you can do it with the Geek Squad or your local computer person. They can do that for you very easily. And like I said, so you're looking at maybe 150 bucks, you can go to the 1 terabyte if you want. For whatever reason, even though the storage is pretty cheap now, new computers are only coming with 256 or 512. Sometimes you can find a 1 terabyte, but it's usually on a much higher end machine. And then finally, the display being a 1080p. Now, let's talk about cost. What are you looking at paying for these specs? In a laptop form factor, you're looking at probably being in the 600 to 800, well, I would even say the 700 to 900, maybe. Well, the thing is like right now, everything's in flux with COVID-19 and the chip shortage that has been affecting cars. It's affecting computers as well. So computer prices have jumped up quite a bit. So you might even be looking at maybe I would say the $600 to $1,000 range. I would even maybe narrow that down to the $800 to $1,000 range for the laptops. Now, the cool thing about laptops, they come with the display. Everything it's just one package out of the box, boom, you're ready to go. But they have smaller displays. If you're looking at a desktop, chances are you already have the monitors. You're just gonna have to go get the tower. If you only have to go get the tower, desktop, you're probably looking at being in somewhere around the $600 to the $800 range, okay? Might go a little bit higher there. You might be in the $1,000 range if you need to buy 1 or 2 monitors. Most computers out of the box will support 2 monitors. Sometimes they only support 1. Usually when they support 2, you're gonna have to get a different cable. Once again, don't wanna get too far into the weeds, but I gotta tell you, make sure that you get the right cables. So talk to the person at Best Buy or at Office Depot or wherever you're buying your computer. You need to make sure you get the right cables, because sometimes they'll have, newer computers, they'll have 2 HDMI cables, and then maybe your monitor doesn't have an HDMI cable. I know this is like rub your temples territory here. There's DVI, there's HDMI, which we're all familiar with. There's VGA. It's easier to just say, hey, talk to the person at Best Buy, have them look at it, and then make sure they get you the right cables. Unfortunately, at Best Buy, you're going to probably pay a little bit more for the cables because that's where they make all their money. But in the long run, it'll save you a lot of headache. And if you're buying off of Amazon, I can help you out with that. Just email me a link to whatever you're looking at buying, and I can send you some links on Amazon of what the cables are that you need to buy. I'm happy to help. So let's take a look at some of these. Let's go to the Best Buy website and let's take a look at their desktop computers. So let's see, Best Buy, we're gonna go to computers and tablets. Now I'm not shilling for Best Buy or anything, but they're kind of the only big box computer store left out there. There's a couple of regional chains, but for the most part, it's kind of Best Buy, and that's it. There's no more Circuit Cities, no more Fry's. So you can also go to Staples and do the same type of search we're going to do. But every even small size city or even large towns have a Best Buy. I currently live in Waynesville, North Carolina, which has about 12,000 people, and we have a Best Buy. Now, of course, we're about 30 minutes outside of Asheville, which is a bigger city, but it's not that much bigger. But we have a Best Buy, so pretty much everybody's got a Best Buy. So let's go to, of course, you can order them online as well. But if we go to laptops and desktops, let's take a look at laptops first. Laptops are fashionable. That's what everybody wants. So now we're going to do select by operating system, Windows, Mac, or Chrome. Appraise It Pro and Appraise It will only work on a Windows computer. So we're going to go Windows OS. A little bit slow today. There we go. All right, so let's look at what they have here. Now, of course, here's one of your lower end computers that I definitely do not recommend. And you can see it's a Ryzen 3. And if you look back at our specs, my minimum was a Ryzen 5. So this one has a Ryzen 3. It's got 8 gigabytes of RAM, which did meet my recommended, my lower end of my recommended. Only 128 gigabyte SSD. My recommendation was at least a 256 gigabyte, and I can almost guarantee you that if I look at the specs on this computer, I bet you that it has a lower end screen. No, it's a full HD. So this computer, if you really got cheap out, and I don't recommend it because this is your business, $369, you could get away with this computer, but I really wouldn't recommend it. So let's keep looking here. Here we go. A Dell. I love Dell. Dell Inspiron 14-inch, so it's a small screen, but it's not terribly small. So it's got a Core i5. We like that. 8 gigs of RAM. That meets our specs, and a 512 gigabyte solid state drive. This is a great choice here. Meets all of our minimum specs. The RAM could be better, but you could add RAM fairly easily. You could take that over to the Geek Squad people and have them pop another 8 gigs of RAM in that thing, and you'd be ready to go. But 8's good enough. It's you know, you're not going to run into any problems. It's probably, yeah, it's adequate. You know what I mean? So 8 gigabytes of RAM, so $679. So you're looking at out the door, you're looking at around $700. That's not bad at all. We can keep going down here. Here's a $470 laptop, Core i3, 8 gigs of RAM, 256. That Core i3 that's just going to make, I mean, it'll run Appraiser Pro just fine, but it's going to be slower. So I would stay away from it. Just avoid the temptation to really cheap out. You know, this is your main business device that you're going to be working with. So it looks like I said, we're around that $800 price range right now. So that's not bad at all. Core i5, 8 gigs RAM, 256 gigabytes of SSD. And we're looking at, $570. Not bad. HP, Dell, Lenovo, highly recommend them. Very good computers. All three of those brands are very good. Even Acer. Acer is a company. They're out of Taiwan, Republic of China, whatever you want to call it. They're out of Taiwan. They used to make computer peripherals like motherboards and the guts of computers. And then, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, they started making their own computers. I've had a number of Acers, very good computers, highly recommend them. You could, really, this is like a gaming computer though. Gaming computers, they're powerful, but they always have to have these like hard beveled edges and red everything and look aggressive, whatever. I tend to like the things like this. If you really want to go all out, $1,500, you're gonna have tiny bezels, nice screen. This is a Samsung AMOLED screen, so this has got the same screen that you have on higher end phones. Core i7, 16 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte SSD. I mean, right here you are ballering out. This is the creme de la creme, the top of the line here, $1,500. All right, so now we looked at desktops. Let's go look at laptops real quick. And generally, if you want to go to Best Buy, you're going to have less of a selection of Best Buy than you would on Amazon, but you are going to be able to touch the computers and you're going to be able to ask questions. And the big thing for us, especially for appraisers, for people that type, I mean, I'm not an appraiser, but I type for a living, and that's what you guys do for a living. Go to Best Buy and try out the keyboards, because I've seen that's where they skimp out. Like, they'll have nice specs, but then they'll skimp out on the keyboard, and it'll just be a mushy keyboard with not a lot of key travel, and it just will not be fun to type on. So definitely go and try out the keyboards. That's very important to you guys. Let's do desktops here real quick. So we're on PC laptops. Let's back out one more, I think. We'll go to menu, we'll come down here to computers and tablets, and this time we're going to do laptops and desktops, and this time we're going to select desktops and all-in-one computers. All-in-ones, they look cool, not upgradable. So just keep that in mind. If you're only going to have your computer for maybe 2 years, okay, all-in-one will work just fine. But If you want to keep your computer and have somebody be able to work on it if something goes wrong, I highly recommend desktops. Desktops, remember, are going to be sold with a monitor, with a keyboard and a mouse, and that's about it. They're not going to come with a monitor. So you have to buy the monitor separately, but chances are you guys already have a monitor, so that's not going to be a big deal. So all desktops, we'll do everyday desktops. That's probably where you guys are going to be. All right, so here we go. 300 and so out the door under 400 bucks. We're going to get an AMD Athlon Silver. No. 4 gigs of RAM and an AMD Athlon. Nope. We're going to keep going. Ryzen 3. No. Intel Core 2 Duo. Absolutely not. And that's a refurbished. So it's an older computer. What do we got? Let's see if we can get down here to some Core i5s. Here we go. Here's a Core i5. This is a refurbished 250 gigabyte SSD, 350 bucks. That would work just fine. I don't know why it's showing me all these refurbished. Here we go. This is a new one. So a Lenovo Core i5. Nope, sorry, Core i3. That's confusing. Idea Center 5i, and it's a Core i3. Marketing people at computer companies are the worst. So let's skip that one. Ryzen 3, no. Intel Pentium, no. Here we go. Refurbished. Gosh, Best Buy. Here's the thing. Everybody in the market right now, they want laptops and not desktops. So you're finding a lot of you'll find a lot of refurbished stuff on the market because they're just not building very many desktops anymore. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to do all the way up here, and then we're going to do a Core i5, and we'll do RAM. We'll do RAM at 8, 12, and 16, and then we want only new. Storage capacity 250 and 500 and 1,000, which would be a terabyte. So let's see what we get. All right, brand new computers. Here we go. This is what we wanted. So a Dell Core i5, 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gigabyte SSD. I don't know why they're continuing to have the low SSD numbers, but that's what they are. But you could easily upgrade that. $679. So we're out the door for around 700 bucks. Dell Inspiron Core i5, 12 gigs of memory, 1 terabyte hard disk drive. Let's stay away from the hard disk drives. An Acer Aspire desktop Core i5, 12 gigs of memory, and 512 gigabyte. And you see this, it says NVMe. That's an SSD. That's a slower SSD. But 512 gigabytes, we're at $679. There we go. That's what we want. Now you may be wondering, why am I really harping on this SSD thing? A great way to explain this to you is the speed of it. My computer came initially with a 1 terabyte hard drive. I booted it up initially with that, and it takes, to get to Windows, to get to the desktop where you can start using your computer, it can be like a 4 or 5, maybe a 4-minute process, even on a fast computer. With my SSD that I have in this computer, I am at the desktop in about 20 seconds or less. So there's a huge speed difference. So definitely go with the solid state. Let's see here. We're going to be at, let's see, this HP Envy is a Core i5, 12 gigs of memory, 512 gigabyte solid state, 700 bucks. So we're looking, you're going to be in the $700 range, $700 to $800 range here. So just kind of keep that in mind. So as you can see, there's a lot to choose from. I know it can sometimes be overwhelming, and that's why I'm here. I can most certainly help you out with that. Just email me, matt@sfrep.com or training@sfrep.com. Both of those will go to the same place. Now, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and get them in now, and I'll be happy to answer them for you, even if they are questions specific to you. That's why we're going to have this question and answer session here for a couple of minutes. There is a little chat bubble icon that should be in the interface that you have there for GoToMeeting. Just click on that and you can text out your questions. If you are watching the recording of this later on YouTube or on our website, then what you can do is you can email matt@sfrep.com, training@sfrep.com, and I'll be happy to answer whatever questions you may have. But for those of you who are watching live, use that little chat bubble icon. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you. Some people ask about cameras. I don't even necessarily go down that road much anymore because cameras are very personal. Some people, some appraisers use DSLR, real fancy DSLR cameras. Some appraisers use point and shoot still. But honestly, I mean, this is the iPhone 13. I just got it last week when it just came out. I mean, this thing takes DSLR quality images anyway. The iPhone 13 Pro even has a 3x optical zoom on it. So, and this has the wide angle lens, which is great for getting a whole room in the shot. So, you pair that with our mobile app, which is Inspect a Lot, and you're going to have a, awesome camera that you can easily pop images in. I have iCloud, so when I take a bunch of pictures, they're automatically uploaded to iCloud, and then I can go to iCloud.com and I can grab those photos just out of the cloud. Or there's other you can plug an iPhone directly into a computer and grab images off of it. So really, I highly recommend using your phone. It's a great camera. But if you do use a point and shoot, that's great too. Don't fall for the megapixel game. You're gonna want to, take a look. You can go on YouTube, watch some reviews of it and see what kind of quality you're gonna get out of them. So, other than Heather having problems with getting her sound working, we're not having any other questions. So here's the deal. Like I said, if you have questions, feel free to email me. Also, in addition to calling me, although calling me is hit and miss because sometimes I'm away from the desk or whatever, but I also can do text messages at my business line. Okay, so if you got a pen and paper, I'm going to give you my phone number. Okay, and you guys can text me with any questions that you might have regarding technology. That's going to be great if you're out at Best Buy or Staples or wherever, and you're looking for a computer and you have a question. My number is area code 828, and I'll put it on here, okay? So you guys can see it. So area code 828-919-9082. That is my business line, and that also goes to my cell phone, so you'll be able to text me, and I can answer any questions that you have. I have an iPhone, but this is a business text line, so it'll be a regular text, not an iMessage, but I can still, I think, do photos and stuff back and forth. So, you can send me a photo and say, hey, I'm thinking about this computer. But like I said, these are our specs that we recommend right here. So if you want to jot those down, these are the specs that I recommend. And, minimum, yeah, they're minimum specs, but really this is what you're going to want to shoot for, okay? And if I could say anything more, it would be check that keyboard, because I can't tell you how many crappy laptop, like I have a great laptop, Core i7, it's got 16 gigs of RAM, love the laptop. The keyboard is absolutely abysmal. So, excuse me, make sure that you go out there and you test that keyboard because you are going to be using it a lot. Let's see, Darla says, let's see here. Will you put up the requirements for a laptop again? Requirements for the laptop and desktop are going to be the same. That's what I recommend for both laptop and desktop. This is going to be more important for your laptop. Make sure that it has a 1080p display. Other than that, same thing for laptop and desktop. This would also be more laptop centric. Make sure that that keyboard is good, because the last thing you want to do is go out and buy this great laptop and you hate the keyboard, and then you have to cart around an external keyboard with you because you just hate that laptop keyboard so much. How do I see that? I'm on my phone. Darla, I'm going to have a recording of this after we get off here. It'll be put up on our YouTube page. So you can actually go to youtube.com/SFREP or just search for SFREP on YouTube. And then this recording will be up there later on today. And then that way you can look at it on your desktop later. But if you want to jot it down, if you're on your phone, processor, we're looking for an Intel Core i5 or an AMD Ryzen 5. RAM, we're looking for 8 to 12 gigabytes of RAM. Storage, we're looking for either 256 gigabytes or 512 gigabytes of SSD or solid state drive. Stay away from HDD, which is hard disk drive. Display, we're looking for 1080p, and check the keyboard. Please, like, I can't hammer that enough. There are some really terrible laptop keyboards out there. So, you know, it's going to be a matter of finding the best one of the crappy ones is essentially what you're going to be dealing with. Let's see, Lef, is that correct? Lef, sound went bad, can't understand you. I apologize. You know, you might have a bad connection, something like that. If you are not able to hear me, and I'll type this in, but we will be posting, let me just put it there, posting this on. We'll be posting this on YouTube later. Okay, so if you've had connection problems and you're having problems with the audio, then watch the YouTube version, and I'm sure that there won't be problems there. I have a really fast connection at home, so I can't imagine it's on my end. If it is, it will show up in the YouTube video, and then I will know then. But I generally don't have any problems with the sound or anything. So hopefully this is a good starting point for you guys. And it kind of answers some of the questions you have. Once again, if you have any specific questions, just email me, matt@sfrap.com, or if you're out at the store and you need help, I can't guarantee that I'm going to be able to answer your text right away, you know, especially if it's on a Saturday or Sunday, but I generally do. 828-919-9082. I'll be happy to talk to you. Text is always best because that way I can do it while I'm doing other things. But if you want to call, probably going to be harder to get in touch with me that way, but you're welcome to call that number as well. But I can receive text there. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope all of you have a wonderful week. I hope your weather is better than our weather. I don't know if you can see out the windows behind me, but it is absolutely abysmal weather here. We've got tons of rain, and it's cold and rainy here in Western North Carolina. So hopefully you're getting better weather where you are. Hopefully you have a great rest of your week and a great weekend coming up. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a good one. Thanks.